Alafia, peace community. This is your sister Ama Robin, and welcome, Aquaba, to You Ain't Imagining This, your Black empowerment storytelling sanctuary. Today, we're talking about the hustle, the grind, that pressure to keep pushing even when your body, mind, and spirit are saying no. You might be living it right now. You might feel it in your bones right now. This episode is about what that hustle does to us and how we can begin to break free today. Before we dive in, let me gently remind you of two things. Number one, come as you are. No need to fix, perform, or prove anything here. Number two, take what you need. This space is yours. And because you're listening to this episode, this is what I think I know about you. You've been holding in too much for too long, maybe without even realizing it. You want to thrive, not just survive. And somewhere deep down, you know there's another way. And if someone sent this episode, then I know something else too. Someone cares about you a lot, enough to want you rested, well, and whole. We're going to start with a short story to get you in the mood. So sit back, take a deep breath, and let's do this. Now, before I begin, full disclosure, because I never keep anything from you. I wrote this story with mine own hand. That's right. I wrote the story, and after I did, I realized that there's a better way to present it. So then I did get AI to turn it into a rhythmic, rhyming folktale. So that's my, I don't know what I call confession, but just so you know, let's get started. The story of Miss Josie Mae. They called her Miss Josie Mae. She rose before the break of day, made biscuits quick with heavy hands, then walked across the cotton lands. She scrubbed white sheets in boiling lye, hung sorrow where the wind ran dry. Her baby cried, she wiped his face, then tied him close with quiet grace. She was a washerwoman, yes, but also strength in Sunday dress. Her back was bent, her feet were bare, yet no one doubted she was there. The land was leased, the work was steep, the nights were short, the hunger deep. Her husband once spoke out too loud. The landowner said he was too proud. They sent him south, no trial, no name, just gone, and she was left with shame. But still she worked with head held low because she couldn't let it show. She held the baby, hauled the sacks, took beatings life laid on her back. She knew that rest could look like sin, and that black women must not give in. Work twice as hard, they always said, and hold your tongue, or you'll be dead. So she did both through pain and rain, and smiled with grace that hid her strain. But one day near the washing line, her hands gave out before the spine. She sat down hard upon a crate and whispered low beneath the weight, "I'm tired." The breeze grew still, the trees stood tall, the world did not collapse at all. No curse came down, no scolding word, just silence, and her truth was heard. And from the porch an elder cried, "You said it, baby, you don't have to hide. They'll call you weak, but you are wise. You can't survive on work and lies. So Josie Mae just closed her eyes and let the wind unmask disguise. She didn't stop, she still pressed through, but now she knew what wasn't true. The hustle wasn't holy, no. She earned the right to rest and grow, to sit, to weep, to feel the sting. She walked in dust and carried everything. The story of Miss Josie Mae. Before we continue on, let's take a slow, deep breath in and exhale through your mouth. One more time, just like that. Inhale and exhale. Well, that felt better for me. Miss Josie Mae's story isn't fiction for many of us. It's memory. It's family. It's the shadow we carry in our own steps. Maybe you saw your grandmother in her. I certainly did. Or maybe you saw your mother. Or even, let's be honest, yourself. Maybe you've been carrying everything too. So before we go any further, let this moment be a pause. No, not a performance, not a fix, just a pause. Wow. Say softly to yourself, I'm allowed to feel this. I don't have to hold it all. And if you need to cry, to breathe, or step away for a minute, do that. You're not alone, and I promise you ain't imagining this. Now, when you're ready, we'll talk about the ways that we've been taught to hustle and how, because this is important, we're going to begin to release it. We've just heard Miss Josie Mae's story, and that's a story that is rooted in truth. Yes, it's fictional, and yes, I wrote it, but I wrote it from somewhere, from something, and it's part of my family's truth, and it's definitely shadowed by survival, because since they survived, I'm here. And now let's talk about us, because hustle doesn't always look like picking cotton or scrubbing floors. Sometimes it looks like smiling when you're breaking inside. Sometimes it sounds like saying, I'm fine, when you're anything but that. Let's name the hustle. Let's name how it shows up in our lives, quietly, constantly, and sometimes completely. Let's begin. Before we begin, a gentle warning. Some of what you're about to hear may stir up difficult feelings, grief, anger, shame, exhaustion, pain, anxiety. Those are difficult feelings, and it's okay to admit that those feelings are stirred up. This is a truth space, and sometimes truth is difficult, but it also means that the truth is landing with you, and this is something that I think is important for all of us. But if you need to pause, to breathe, or step away, do that. Don't hesitate. Do that. And come back when you're ready. And please remember that you are not alone in this. We are a community that sees you, that cares for you, and that wants your happiness and joy and freedom, not just your function. Okay, so I'm talking about hustle today. And this is called that why we were not meant to hustle this way. And I'm a child of the 70s, so when I'm hearing hustle, I'm thinking of the dance. Now, the dance was good. It was a cool dance, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the hustle of work. And hustling isn't actually just working hard. It's working in ways that grind down your spirit, that diminish your health, that affect your truth, because you feel like you don't have a choice. That's much different. And there are different kinds of hustle. There are a lot of different kinds. I'm just going to mention a few, because then we'll go through some examples and you'll recognize them. But hustle is more than just working, and it's more than just working hard. Okay, let's talk about the first one that we all probably recognize, the physical hustle. Pushing your body past its limits, ignoring exhaustion, ignoring pain, ignoring illness, or ignoring your basic needs because you have to keep going. That's right. Do you ever feel that? You have to keep going. So you ignore your exhaustion and pain and illness because you have to keep going? Well, that's the physical hustle. Next, we have the mental hustle. Constantly overthinking, planning, and problem solving, often from a place of fear. That's the difference. From a place of fear, not clarity, not just having great organizational skills, but from a place of fear. You're always overthinking, over planning, and problem solving. And honestly, I know this one all too well too. The third one, emotional hustle. Hiding or suppressing your true feelings to keep others comfortable or to avoid being seen as too much. As Black women, we are constantly faced with that one, always regulating ourselves and policing ourselves, even as they're policing us. The next one, number 4, performative hustle. What could that be? I want to tell you. Performing wellness, success, or competence, often to meet white Western expectations, or, listen to this one, to prove your worth. That's right. Performing to prove your worth. I mean, how often do we say we're going to prove them wrong? Well, that's the hustle. Number 5, this one might be a surprise. Spiritual hustle. Ignoring your need for rest, for silence, or for connection to something deeper, because even rest starts to feel like a luxury that you haven't earned. Yes, that's right. We feel like we need to earn the right to rest. Now we may say, well, but isn't that true? Answer, no. So those are the 5 that I wanted to mention. There are other types of personal hustles too, and I may mention a few more, but these are the majors. And just a quick note before we get to it on collective hustle. That's right. We have our individual personal hustles, but there's also a collective hustle. And no, I gotta say, you ain't imagining this. And the hustle didn't start with you, and you didn't invent it, and you don't carry it alone. Many of us learned to hustle from watching our families do what they had to do to survive. We saw our parents or caregivers pushing past exhaustion. We heard pride in the phrase, "We don't complain, we just get it done." You ever said that? You ever heard it? We watched whole communities grind, serve, and sacrifice with no space to rest. And it didn't stop there. Now we get to the collective culture of hustle. Grind culture shows up in our workspaces, our schools, and even our activist spaces, where worth gets measured in output, in sacrifice, in how much we've endured as a group, how much we can take as a community. Even rest starts to turn into a performance, asking, did you earn it? Did you optimize it? Did you come back better? And that we do as individuals, but we also do that as a community. As a Black community, we say, wow, we took that and we're still here. Well, that's a community kind of hustle that we endured stuff we never should have had to. But we're going to focus today on individual hustle, because just know this, you're really not imagining it. It happens inside collective grind systems, basically going into capitalism, but I'm going to not touch that one just yet. And that grind culture of that collective hustle rewards us for burning out as individuals and as a community, as workers, as teams. We are rewarded for burning out. And just because it's been normalized does not mean that it is right or okay. So now we're going to go into 12 real-life hustle examples. These are powerful, they're subtle, and they are true. And each is followed by, explanation of the type of hustle it represents. And by the way, these are not meant to shame. They're meant to give us time to reflect, to even have an aha moment. Oh, really? Aha. Oh, I've done that. And I can tell you I've done almost all of these, if not all. So we're not talking about shame. We're talking about learning and growth. So sit back. And as I said, if some of these begin to feel, difficult, take the time you need for you. I'm going to be here. Number 1, you wake up tired and still go directly to open your laptop. Yes, that is a physical hustle, because rest feels indulgent, because you don't want to fall behind, because you're afraid of what rest might cost you, your job, respect, admiration. So before your body has a chance to even wake up, you are grabbing that laptop or your phone. Number 2, you reread that email 5 times, adding extra emojis or polite punctuation just to seem nicer, or even less threatening. Again, emotional hustle. You shrink your truth so that you won't be labeled angry. You translate your tone just to feel safe. Your mind is going really, really fast, trying to control your emotions. And that is the emotional hustle. Number 3, you agree to take on another task at work even though you're already drowning in work. Guess that's right, physical hustle. Because you're the only one who looks like you in the room. Because if you say no, it might confirm what they already think. At least that's what you're thinking. Number 4, you calculate how much you can show them before you even walk into the room. That's right. It's a mental hustle. You scan for safety. You soften your voice. You rehearse answers, all before smiling and saying hello. And then you enter the room. Number 5, you still go to the doctor with a printout, notes, and backup because you've been dismissed before. I think that's just good behavior. That's just being prepared. But it is an emotional and a mental hustle that we're forced to do and to endure, and that others are not. You become your own patient advocate just to receive basic care that you can trust. Number 6, you don't cry, not even in private. This was a particularly hard one for me. That is the emotional hustle. You're taught to hold it in, taught that softness is a luxury, taught that grief or sadness or any strong emotion makes you weak. So you hold it all in. So even though you're not doing something. You actually are. You're just holding it all in, and it takes a toll. Number 7, you push yourself to pray, sing, or lead at church even when your spirit is exhausted, because you don't want to let God down or seem unfaithful. That is a spiritual hustle. Faith, community, and ancestral pressure. And that's a real kind of a hustle. You remember how our ancestors kept the praise going in the fields, in secret meetings, and in brush harbors, even when they were bone tired. You carry that same fire. We all do. But forget that they also rested when they could. And that rest is holy too. And it's one of the gifts that they fought to give to us. Number 8, you are always reachable, always responding, even when your body and mind beg for you to rest and disconnect. That's the physical and emotional hustle. Because you don't want to seem lazy. Because visibility feels like protection, and because the work just never logs off. It never stops, and so neither do you. Number 9, you attend every meeting, volunteer for every cause, but you secretly feel numb, maybe even a bit resentful. The emotional hustle. You give and give because it's what's expected of you. Because you don't want to disappoint. And because, hey, Black women are strong, right? We can keep going forever, right? No, that's wrong. But that is our emotional hustle. Number 10, you downplay your joy so others don't think you're showing off. Gotta think about that one, right? Emotional hustle. You dim your own light to make others comfortable because you've been told that your excellence is threatening. Your joy makes people uncomfortable, they say. So what do? You just diminish and downplay all of it. And I'm not saying you. We all do that. I definitely do that. Number 11, you light candles, play soft music, and try to unwind. But you just can't stop the racing thoughts. Oh, gotta raise my hand to that one too. The emotional hustle. Your body is still braced for attack. Even in rest, we just don't feel safe enough to soften. And finally, number 12, we do the work, the healing, the journaling, the meditating, but secretly feel guilty when we enjoy life. Again, my hand goes up. This is the spiritual and emotional hustle. We've been so used to fighting that peace and rest almost feels like a betrayal. That one is a very big one for me too. Actually, I've seen myself in all of these. So I ask, do you? And as I said, not about judgment or about shame. It's about awareness and reflection. And with that, our next section, we're going to look at how the hustle is affecting us. Okay, so if you need to, take a breath now and release. We've talked about the many ways that we hustle, physically, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. But there's also, of course, that collective hustle and the generational hustle. I wish we had time to go into that, but maybe in the next podcast episode. But I do want to talk about how the hustle is hurting us. Because in many ways, we're told that the hustle is great. The more we hustle, the more successful we'll be. And we're hustling not just for ourselves, but for the next generations and all of that. But we cannot deny that the hustle is hurting us. And there's a lot of actually research that supports it. And the hustle does have a cost, and that cost really is measured in more than just burnout. Burnout is one cost, and I think that's probably the the first sign. And I think we live with that so much, we just, push on through that one. But it's also measured in blood pressure, higher blood pressure. It's measured in shortened lifespans. It's measured in anxiety and depression, both very much on the rise. And it's measured in grief that never gets to rest. We're going to hear from a few experts who have done a lot of research on this. One of them started with a story. I love stories, and stories really talk to me, and I hope that they talk to you too, because there is a story that I think is a good introduction to this section, and it's a true story. And we'll go into a little bit into that story. This isn't Josie Mae. Well, the Josie Mae story is real too. But we're going to go into a factual story here, and then we're going to go a little bit beyond that. So let's begin with the story of John Henry. Have you heard that name before? I hope so, but I didn't. I hope that you have, but I know that I have, but I didn't know much about it. And I'm just going to mention the story. He was a real man, John Henry. He was a formerly enslaved black railroad worker in the 1870s. He was strong, very strong, and he was known for his unmatched power with a hammer. One day, the company brought in a machine, a steel-driving drill. That's right, a machine now. And the owner challenged John Henry to beat the machine. Well, John Henry accepted the challenge, and guess what? He won. He beat the machine. And then what? His body gave out, and he died right there with the hammer in his hand. The story of John Henry. Now, if you want to know more of that story, I actually have it in the blog section on the website. It's a very interesting story, and it's a good metaphor, interesting metaphor for a lot of what was going on back then and even today. So the story of John Henry, the legend really of John Henry. And the story is actually tragic, but I think it is familiar, because we've been told that to win and to succeed and to be successful and to be respectful, that we must overwork. That to be seen, that we have to be superhuman. That to survive racism, we have to prove ourselves through relentless effort. Is that familiar? And this is where the work of Dr. Sherman James comes in. He studied this pattern in real life, not just in stories, and he named it, you probably guessed it, John Henryism. What is John Henryism? Good, glad you asked. John Henryism is a psychological theory developed by epidemiologist Sherman James after decades of research on Black communities in the United States. It describes a high-effort coping style, especially among Black Americans, where people push themselves physically and mentally to overcome racial oppression, poverty, and inequality. That we believe we must fight harder, be better, and keep pushing no matter what it costs. And a refusal to rest, because rest feels dangerous or undeserved. At first glance, this might just be called resilience. It's not. But John Henryism shows us that even resilience has a breaking point. So this goes well beyond resilience. And this is how it harms us. Dr. James spent a lot of time looking at how this harms us. We know about the success, maybe the good parts of working hard and then earning some success. But there is another side. And Dr. James found that this constant hustling, especially among working class Black Americans, but really applies to everybody, it leads to increased risk of hypertension, higher levels of stress hormones, cortisol, greater risk of heart disease, diabetes, and stroke, chronic fatigue and mental health strain, internalized pressure to suppress our emotions and vulnerability. And we know that can lead to all these other things too. So, in other words, the very strength that helps us to survive or even to thrive can also contribute to our suffering. And it's not our fault, it is systemic, it's cultural, and yes, it's generational. But once we name it, we can begin to change it. And that's where we're going next. So, that is all about the hustle. And we spent a good considerable time covering every aspect of the hustle. And, wait, I think I forgot one really important part. How do we stop the hustle? That's right. The hustle can be stopped. It must be stopped. And yes, there is a way to. Now, of course, society's going to say, this is just how life is. This is just how we do things. This is how you be successful. So you can't stop the hustle. You got to do the hustle if you want to be successful, if you just want to live a normal life. Not true. We have to stop the hustle. And it can be stopped. And you can still thrive, live a nice, happy, productive life. You can still be successful. You can still be happy. So, let's talk about how we stop the hustle. And I just want to, because it's so important, I do want to give some truth, just to repeat, some truths about the hustle. First of all, we didn't start it. That's right. We did not start the hustle. We were born and brought into systems that required our labor but denied our rest. We were brought into families that had to keep moving to survive. We were brought into communities where being still was considered dangerous, and being excellent was the only way to be seen. And we're not just talking about excellent, we're talking about hustle excellent. So, if you've been hustling mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it's not a moral failure, not at all. It's not weakness. It's not self-sabotage. It was survival. And you weren't imagining that. But, as I'm saying, survival and hustle survival is not the only path. We are allowed to choose something else, and that's what we're going to do now. Okay, first, what we're going to do is we're going to revisit John Henryism, because we need to understand the pattern of hustle and what it does and what it causes and where it comes from, how it starts, how it develops, and how it ends. True. So we're going back to epidemiologist Sherman James, who taught us that hustle isn't about ambition. Sometimes, most of the time, it's about trying to protect our dignity and our future. Dr. James gave a name to something many black folks already knew in our bones, and he called it John Henryism. And that's a term based on the legend, as I said earlier, of John Henry, the black steel driver who beat the machine through sheer will and effort and then collapsed and died. He won the battle, but it cost him everything. This is really a serious winning the battle but losing the war kind of thing. John Henryism describes a style of high-effort coping where someone responds to constant stress, discrimination, and oppression, not by shutting down, but by pushing through with relentless effort, with determination, and with inner drive. Now that sounds very noble, doesn't it? And in some ways, it really is. And it's how we've survived. But Dr. James revealed the deeper truth about this. High-effort coping helps us survive. But when it's constant, unrelenting, and unsupported, it breaks us down. That's right, it hurts us. It does just the opposite of what we're trying to achieve. So then why do we do it? Why do we do all this relentless, constant, unsupporting, high-effort coping? Because we've been taught that we have to. We've been told that we have to work twice as hard to get half as far. You heard that before? I know you have. I know I heard it, every day and twice on Sundays when I was growing up. We've been told we cannot show weakness, that we cannot take a pause, and we cannot stop. We've seen what happens when Black people do stop and do pause and do something for their own mental health. Like, remember with Simone Biles? We get called lazy. People call us incompetent. People get angry with us, and we're called ungrateful. So what do? We armor up, we overachieve, and we endure. Now, I'm happy to see that Simone Biles did not do all of that. But she took a whole lot of flack, and she was just so strong and so focused that she stayed her course. And hey, shout out to her. But for many of us, we overachieve and we do endure, but it's not ambition. It's self-defense. It's a way to stay safe, a way to be seen, a way to prove that we belong. And so I said earlier what this can look like, but let me just give it in a different context here. High effort coping can be very subtle, and these are a few ways. Saying yes to every task because we fear being seen as unreliable. Swallowing our pain or stress because we don't want to be the problem or that guy. We work through migraines, grief, exhaustion, because we think rest is a luxury and that we don't want to be considered weak. We don't want to be called the weak link. And I get those migraines, and I'm sure this is a direct cause of my migraines. And we also over-prepare and over-perform in white spaces to avoid that judgment or dismissal. And this last one I'm going to mention may take some reflection. We internalize racism as a motivation. For instance, we think, I'll show them I'm good enough. I'll show them I'm that good. I will prove them wrong. That's us performing. That's us taking that internalized racism and using it as a motivation, and all that does is keep the drive going forward and all of the effects, the negative effects that come with it. But it isn't always loud, and sometimes, yeah, that's right, no, it isn't always loud. Sometimes it really is maybe like a smile, when you actually really want to cry. Or sometimes it's grinding your teeth in your sleep. And sometimes it's not even getting to sleep. Sometimes it's the insomnia that no one but maybe your partner or someone close to you sees at night, that you're up at 3 a.m, laying there eyes wide open and trying to figure it out. So who is affected by John Henryism? Okay, even though it's named after a man, John Henry, it can affect all of us. Both Black men and Black women experience John Henryism, but often in different ways. Black men may internalize the pressure to be strong, to be unemotional providers, to push, especially in a system that criminalizes and dehumanizes them constantly. Now, Black women often carry a double burden, the strong Black woman role that demands constant resilience, caregiving, and composure in the face of racism, sexism, and cultural erasure. But we're not the only ones. There's the Black queer folks, Black disabled folks, Black seniors, and others with intersecting identities often carry multiple layers of high-effort coping, each tied to survival. And because this hustle is so deeply woven into our culture, it can feel invisible. Perhaps a better word, actually, is that it can feel normal. So let's get to the nitty-gritty here. That's a term my mother used to use. So what does this high-effort coping, what does this hustle do to our body and mind? Dr. James found that John Henryism is linked to serious health consequences, especially when paired with chronic poverty or social disadvantage. It contributes, and I mean we're talking a real causation here, high blood pressure, especially among black men, and this can start as young as 22 or 23. That's true. Heart disease, absolutely. Insomnia and fatigue, which can lead to other problems. Anxiety, depression, burnout, suicidal thoughts, and overall, an increased risk of early death. And it's a significant risk. And we're talking about high blood pressure starting at age 22 or 23. I mean, just think of what a toll that takes on the body. Or the heart disease, what a toll that takes on the body. Constant insomnia, constant fatigue, anxiety, depression. These take a serious toll on the body. And they end up leading to early death. Now, okay, I won't say there's if this then that. I don't know if the causation if the link is that clear, but there's definitely a correlation, and Dr. Sherman James has been doing a lot of studying of this, and it needs to be considered. And perhaps most painfully, this kind of hustle, this kind of high effort coping can rob us of our joy. It can rob us of our connection and our sense of wholeness. I mean, that's very, very serious, and it's very real. So what do we do now? And I just want to say, again, this is not about blaming ourselves, because we've learned to hustle as a means of survival. And survival is not the same as liberation. I'm going to repeat that. Survival is not the same as liberation. But John Henryism is also not our destiny. It is a signal. It's a wake-up call to shift from pushing through everything to actually then healing on purpose. Think about that, intentional healing. And that's why Dr. James' work matters so much. It validates our experience, and it gives us language to free ourselves. And I promise you're not imagining that, not one bit. But his research also showed that high-effort coping, and it hurts us more than it helps us when it's constant and unsupported. So what is the first step? Yes, the nitty-gritty. What is the first step in fighting John Henryism, in avoiding the hustle or stopping the hustle? The first one, number one thing to do is to recognize it. Recognize the hustle within you. Name it. See it. And remember, you're doing this without shame and without judgment. Recognize it. Name it. See it. Ask yourself. Here are the three questions. It might be three good prompts to ask yourself every day. Am I pushing through pain to prove I belong? Am I pushing through pain to prove I belong? Here's another one. Do I feel guilty when I rest? Last one. Am I afraid I'll be left behind if I slow down? 3 important questions. You don't have to remember them. They'll be in the show notes. And remember, you don't have to fix it all at once. Just start by noticing. Now, here's another step here. And remember, rest is not a luxury. It's a reparations practice. I mean, you know how big I am on reparations. Reparations. That's right. And rest is one form of reparations. Now remember Tricia Hershey, who wrote Rest is Resistance. She said rest is a form of resistance because it disrupts and pushes back against capitalism and white supremacy. And it's the capitalism and white supremacy that lead to this hustle culture that we're in and this John Henryism that we've been experiencing. And she reminds us, Tricia Hershey reminds us, enslaved people were denied rest. Black labor was extracted and exploited. And we know that's happening now still. And today, rest is still framed as laziness in black bodies. So when we rest, people looking at us like, oh, they're just lazy. Whereas, white women rest, it's like, oh, she's taking some her time. There's a difference. So when we rest without apology, we are reclaiming something stolen. We are saying, I'm more than my productivity. I'm worthy even when I'm not being productive. And I get to rest and I don't owe anyone an explanation. That's right. Ooh, I love that one. I get to rest and I don't owe anyone an explanation. Nowadays, I hear that and I'm thinking, yes. But when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was thinking, I wouldn't have accepted that. But I should have. So just take a pause. Allow yourself to have a nap. Allow yourself to stare at the ceiling. Allow yourself to touch the earth. Allow yourself to say no without explanation. And remember, this is a political act, it's a healing act, and it is ancestral defiance. I mean, that's a win-win-win right there. So, allow yourself to rest. Now, here's another one. I remember Dr. James and I talked about this one specifically. Reconnect with culturally grounded self-love. Culture is so important for us. We need to stay connected to our community and our culture because they uplift and restore and rejuvenate us. But thinking about culturally grounded self-love, that's different than this white Western, kind of superficial self-care kind of thing. Let's talk about it. Because Black psychologists and healers, indigenous healers, have long reminded us that rest is not individualistic. It's communal. It's collective. So, I don't know if you've read any of their work, but Dr. Cheryl Grills and Dr. Tima Bryant both teach that healing for Black people requires 4 things. 1, community. 2, ritual. 3, spirit. And 4, culture. That's right. Community, ritual, spirit, and culture. So we're not talking about spa days or productivity hacks. We're talking about letting your grandmother's humming be your lullaby. Lighting a candle and calling on your ancestors. Refusing to carry a burden alone. Crying without apology. Laughing without guilt. It's not about fixing yourself because you're never broken. It's about unlearning what you were forced to believe just to survive. That's right. We are unlearning and we are relearning. We're learning something new here now. Letting go of all those things that were hurting our mental, physical, and spiritual health. And we're not doing it alone. Yes, we walk our path. but we also know that we heal in community and collective, and the collective is so important to us. Okay, this next one is kind of radical, at least in my mind, but I'll let you judge it for yourself. Here we are, number 4, practice slow recovery. Practice slow recovery. Stopping the hustle doesn't mean quitting everything. It means taking back the pace. Restoring your own pace. Sometimes even the step before that, you'll be figuring out what your pace is. It's taken me a long time. That's been a real journey for me as a mental projector to realize that, I'm not the 12 to 14 hour working kind of person. I put in 2 or 3 good concentrated hours and I'm done. And that took me a long time to accept. So finding your pace and then taking it back and working at that pace. Here's some practices that could help. Take a Sabbath day. Okay, we got our Sabbath. I know that. But this is a Sabbath for you. One day with no performance, no obligations, just being. Now you can make that your spiritual Sabbath the same day if you like, or you could take a different one. But take your own Sabbath day. Take micro rests. That's right, little tiny rest periods. 5-minute breath rituals during the day, or 5-minute standing and staring out the window breaks. Staring out the window actually is proven to really help a person to de-stress, to calm down, and to see the big picture, to see themselves as something bigger. So try that. Try a 5-minute breath, a breathing ritual, or try to just get up and go look out the window for 5 minutes. Another, community check-ins. Share your hustle moment with someone. Remember, it's about the collective, about the community. Let them help you ease out of it. We don't have to do this alone. No, we don't. That's the Western society, that Western way of doing things, the rugged individualism. We're leaving that. So call up someone and let them help you step out of the hustle and to get into your ease. And you help them too. You help them to step off out of the hustle, to help them step into ease. And remember, there's no shaming. We're just starting with connecting and helping each other. And then we have cultural rituals. Drumming. We're playing any instrument. I love the drum. I love the piano too. Singing, dancing, building an altar, walking barefoot. That's one of my big ones. The earthing, feeling the grass in my bare feet. Oh, I can't even explain it. Storytelling, that's right. Yes, we all are storytellers, and we all have a story to tell. And that's something to share with others and let them share with you. And I gotta say, none of this is self-indulgent or superficial. This is medicine. This is healing. And this is done that you're doing it, and we're all doing this together. Remember, as Dr. Tima Bryant reminds us, healing happens when we remember that we are not alone, that we heal in the embrace of community. We heal in the rhythms that carry our culture, and we heal when we speak the truth, especially the truths that we've been told to silence. When the truth comes to light, that's when healing can be difficult, but that's when healing happens. And this is my last one here, and you don't have to remember any of these. It'll be in the show notes. Create a soft place to land. Whether it's a corner of your room, a garden, a journal, or a group text with people that you trust, make space for yourself. A place where you don't have to prove, produce, or pretend. You don't have to share it. You don't have to explain it. Just make it yours. And when the hustle creeps back in, and it will, because we've been carefully taught, return to this place. Return to your rhythm and your pace and your people and your truth. Well, I think we have reached that time in this episode. It's time to wind it down. We've discussed the hustle quite a lot. We've discussed the grind, what causes it, why we do it, what the effects are, and most importantly, how we can stop it. We have the power to stop it. We take that first step and be aware of what we are doing, of our actions and behaviors. And that is the first step. You know how I am about awareness. To me, awareness is the first step to opening the door. It basically gives you the keys to the kingdom. But without awareness, the door stays shut. So you now have awareness. And so now you've got those keys. Let's take a deep breath and let's close this out together. Let's take a deep breath in and exhale. I am so proud of you. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of us because we made it to the end of this conversation, and that means a lot. It means that we all have the courage to sit with hard truths about the hustle, about the systems that taught us to grind, and the toll it's taken on our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. In this episode, I've mentioned several Black scholars, researchers, scientists, authors, and I just want to repeat their names because they're so important. Dr. Sherman James, who named what so many of us are living through right now, high effort coping, that relentless push to survive in systems that were never built for us. Let's remember Tricia Hershey. And she is an incredible woman who is the founder of the NAP Ministry and the author of Rest is Resistance. I have read that book, I don't know how many times, over and over and over again. Every time I learn something new, and every time I understand the importance of rest and how I can do it unapologetically. She reminds us that rest is not a luxury. It's a divine and ancestral right, especially for Black people. In this world that profits from our exhaustion, Hershey teaches us that choosing rest is an act of liberation. It's a refusal to be reduced to machines or to endless labor. Wow, wow, wow. And let's also honor the brilliant minds from the Association of Black Psychologists. That's right, the Association of Black Psychologists. They are these trailblazing, what do I call them, Black therapists, theorists, and really healers who always remind us that our culture is not a deviation from psychology. It is psychology. That our history, our resistance, our collective memory, our rituals, our relationships, those aren't barriers to wellness. They are the foundation of it. It isn't often put that way, but that's exactly what it is. And I do want to go back to remind you of the John Henryism active coping scale that Dr. Sherman James created. Now, if you wonder if you are doing high effort coping, this scale can give you some real clues as to how you are handling things, how you are approaching your life. And it's a tool. It's really a tool that helps us to assess the adversity that we've internalized and how it may be showing up in our health. Now, you don't even have to go looking for it. He has very graciously allowed me to put it into the show notes where you can find it and take it every month if you like. See how you're doing. Assess yourself. No judgments. It's just learning and it's just understanding. Remember, this episode is not about shame. It's about awareness. It's about compassion. And it's about reclaiming our rest without apology. And if you'd like support in doing that, I have included a short grounding ritual in the show notes. It's simple, restorative, and rooted in our culture. It just takes a few minutes, but I do this one, and I tell you, I feel like a different person on the other side. And always remember that You Ain't Imagining This is a sanctuary for you. It's a space where we can gather to tell the truth, to breathe, to be real, and to stop carrying all of this alone. If this episode moved you, and I really hope it did, or if it made you feel less alone, again, I hope it did, I would love to hear from you. Come find me on Substack at You Ain't Imagining This, or send me an email at amarobin, AMAROBIN, at youaintimaginingthis.com. And as we close, I just want to remember Miss Josie Mae, a fictional character, yes, but rooted in absolute truth. We know her because we are her, holding on, holding it all together, and finally deciding to lay it all down. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. Just like the brilliant Black scholars we've honored today, the story of Miss Josie Mae has something to teach us too, about survival and about sacrifice, and about the quiet, revolutionary power of rest. I hope you enjoyed this show, and as always, remember, you are not alone, and can you guess? You ain't imagining this. Ashe, community.